Hi, and welcome to our online information session about the Masters in Bioethics and Medical Humanities program at Case Western Reserve University. We are so thankful that you joined us this evening or afternoon, depending on where you're located today. So I'm going to go over the agenda very quickly, and then we'll get started. So we're going to cover a little bit about Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. We'll talk about the program. We'll talk about student assistantships, financial aid, the application process and deadlines. We'll talk about Cleveland, and then we'll go over Q&A. So as we are going through our presentation, if you have questions for us, please use the Q&A feature here on Zoom. So we will be able to see your questions. We may answer them as we go, or we may hold them to the end. It just depends on what your question is, how our time is going through the presentation. So feel free to submit them as we go. I'll introduce myself. I am Dr. Leah Jeanette. I am the Assistant Director of Education and a Senior Research Associate in the Department of Bioethics. I have been in the Department of Bioethics for about 5 years now, this upcoming fall. I wear a lot of different hats in the department. As you can see, I function as the Assistant Director of Education. So I work with incoming students. I also teach. I got to pilot a new course this past spring focusing on adolescent health and bioethics. I also am a clinical ethicist. And so I work at university hospitals doing clinical ethics, which has been an incredible experience. And I will also let Sam Hamilton introduce herself as she is joining us today as well. Sam?
Hi everyone, I will be your Q&A moderator today. I'll be going through all of the questions that you guys are posting, and I'll go through and pose them to Dr. Jeanette, or maybe I can answer them depending on the type of question. I am currently the Assistant Director of Enrollment Management for the School of Medicine. Essentially, that means I work with the different programs that are within the master's and the PhD levels at the School of Medicine and help them with different recruitment and initiatives that we are trying to implement to help make sure that your experience through this process is the best that you could possibly have. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right, so I'll start with talking about Case Western Reserve University School of Medicine. So I'll start with Case itself. Case Western Reserve is located in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm a little biased, being that I am from Cleveland, but and I am a Case Western Reserve School of Medicine, specifically this master's program alum. But we are #1 in Ohio, according to U.S. News and World Report for the School of Medicine. We are ranked 25th for medical research. Medical education research, which we are very proud of. Of course, these metrics all have different meanings and stuff. What it says to us, though, is medical education research, medical research is a very high priority for our faculty, for our institution, and we are paying attention. These things matter to us, and they are incorporated into how we educate and teach our students. And so they are integral into how we teach, into how we work, into how our school is built. And so that is what matters most in terms of showing these rankings. Other rankings that are important in terms of biomedical research itself, you know, in some publication impacts when it comes to biomedical research, we rank as high as 8th in the nation. In terms of NIH research funding, when you add in our partnerships with our teaching hospitals, we're ranked as high as 24th in terms of total funding, which is a pretty big deal. We partner very closely with Cleveland Clinic, university hospitals, the Veterans Hospital, Metro Health Medical Center, to work on a lot of different grants and initiatives, to do all different kinds of research at all different levels. And it's very exciting work, including the work we're doing within our Department of Bioethics, whether it's our own grants or partnering with grants. What we're seeing now more than ever is not only is bioethics a part of grants, whether it be an engineering grant or some type of medical research grant, but bioethics and medical humanities are having their own grants that are front and center that are just as important as the biomedical research grants itself. So that's pretty exciting. We're very thrilled by that. Some other exciting things about CASE as well is not only is our School of Medicine fantastic, we also have great social work programs. Our nursing program, including our doctorate of nursing program, is one of the top in the nation. We have a great law school. The business school is one of the best in the nation. We're just really proud. Engineering is fantastic at CASE. We're really proud of the accomplishments that CASE has done and the students that we put out and the work that our faculty and staff do here. It's a very dedicated university across the board, and there's a lot going on here, which is exciting. So one of the questions we often get, and Sam can attest to this, is why study bioethics and medical humanities? Why does it matter? And I think this question has changed significantly pre-pandemic to post-pandemic. I think this question, people have a better understanding of bioethics and medical humanities now since we've lived through and are still living through a pandemic to a certain extent. But ultimately, healthcare and the healthcare industry impact us all. It affects us, whether it's personally or professionally. So these things matter. Bioethics and the study of bioethics and medical humanities, there's constant advancements in science and technology, and they end up leading to big questions that have ethical concerns. And we end up having these questions that lead us to needing answers. And how do we find those answers? And how do we wrestle with those answers? And you can see a sampling of these types of questions. Should we intervene? Can we intervene? Or even how do we intervene, right? What kinds of values should inform policy and practice? And can we ensure justice and respect for persons in research and clinical practice? These are not easy questions to wrestle with. These are not easy questions to answer. And to a certain extent, there may not be one answer or one size fits all for these answers. And as science advances, as technology changes and develops, these answers may change as well. And so studying bioethics and medical humanities can help lend us the ability to have foundational understandings of these things and be able to address these as they come up. And so it is important to study these things as we pursue science and technology, as we work and live in our society and the society around us and the cultures around us. So then how does bioethics and medical humanities help your career path, right? So if you're going to pursue studying these, ultimately, how does it help that career or your career path? So bioethics and medical humanities from its beginning stages has always been interprofessional and multidisciplinary, transdisciplinary, transprofessional, all those different words from the very beginning and in its current practice. And so because of that, it can launch students into a variety of careers and into a variety of paths, which is what makes this area of study, these areas of study, so unique and yet so amazing and such a thriving area. So we have students that enter our program that know exactly what they want to do. They come in and they say, I want to do this program so that I can better understand, science. I can better understand medicine before I go to med school or before I go to PA school or before I go on to get my doctorate of nursing or before I go to law school and work in health policy or health law. Or we have students who want to do this because they're not sure what they want to do, but they know they want to be in healthcare in some way. And this program allows students to be exposed to a variety of professions and disciplines within bioethics and medical humanities so that they can have this experience and still launch and go into and along their career path in a way that makes sense for them. We just finished our spring semester, and so we had a number of students who just graduated, which is really exciting. But it also means, seeing our students move on to the next step, and seeing where students are going to go next. And so that's always exciting. And the variety of directions that students are going to go is incredible. And so you can see here, there's a sampling of clinical and legal professions, regulatory work, arts and humanities. We have students who are going on to become bioethicists and going into academics. And ultimately, if you're undecided, if you're not entirely sure what the next step is, this program is a great opportunity to explore areas within healthcare, areas within medicine, areas within humanities, to think about your career path and the next step for you. So let's talk a little bit more about the specifics of the program. So we are a one-year program. And what we mean by 1 year is really 2 semesters. So our program is 30 credit hours. It can be completed in 2 semesters, starting in the fall and then graduating after the spring semester. 13.5 credits are electives, which is a great opportunity for students to customize the program based on their interests, based on their career path. Some of the highlights that we're going to talk about are the clinical ethics rotations. We have a short-term study abroad immersion program opportunities. We also have personalized advising. We have a program called student assistantships. Our program itself has been around. We're celebrating 26 years this year, and our department itself, as you can see, has been around for 20 years. So before that, we were a center of bioethics, but we've been around for a very long time, our program itself. And so we have worked very hard to establish our master's program in a way that can launch students into a variety of fields and paths, and can support students in ways that really can help them on their career path. So let's talk a little bit more specifics. So we have 2 different concentration that our program offers. One is medicine, society, and culture. Students are not required to do a concentration, but students sometimes do. So this concentration of medicine, society, and culture allows students to deep dive into this area. Students can do this, and they take their core course, they take a seminar, and there's lots of opportunities to focus in this area. We're going to kind of move through this pretty quickly. And we have other webinars on our website and on our YouTube channel if you're interested in learning more about the concentration itself. Our other concentration is research ethics, where we students take the research ethics and regulations core course. We have a journal club that goes along with this, and there's an opportunity to do a practicum in place of one of the clinical ethics rotations. Again, we have a great webinar that talks about this concentration that students can check out if they want to learn more. So here's kind of the breakdown of what our curriculum looks like. So as you can see here in our fall semester and spring semester, we have something we call Foundations of Bioethics 1 and Foundations of Bioethics 2. This is our core course for our program. This is a 6 credit hour in the fall, 6 credit hour in the spring. This is the meat and potato course of the program. This is where students do a deep dive into the world of bioethics and medical humanities. It is seminar style. We have a variety of speakers that come in, whether it's faculty from our department, to talk about the different topics each class, but we also have speakers that are experts in their areas from our teaching hospitals in the area, or speakers that are from outside our university. One of the great things we were able to do this year because of teaching on Zoom, because of being remote, was we actually invited speakers from outside our university, outside the state, frankly, because we were all on Zoom. So for one of our guest lectures, we invited one of the countries foremost experts on animal ethics to come and give a talk. She's from Harvard, Dr. Lisa Moses was able to come in and give a talk. And because of that, she's going to be teaching a class for us in the fall, which is fantastic. We're really excited about that. We offer something called clinical ethics rotations. That course is a great opportunity where students rotate in our hospitals here in Cleveland. It is one of the top reasons that students choose our program. We'll talk about the specifics of that in just a moment. It is an incredible opportunity, and there is almost, I'm not aware of a program that does anything like it. And then we have a variety of options for electives. Students can take both electives internally within our department or externally across the university. Internally, we have electives that cover disability studies, science and technology, aging and ageism and embodiment. We have clinical ethics theory and practice electives. We have electives that cover racial justice and medicine, adolescent health and bioethics. We had an elective this year on the bioethics issues in Star Trek. So such a variety of electives that can be taken within our department. And of course, across the university, as I mentioned, so taking courses in the law school, so taking a course on health law, or a course on in social work, or something in medical anthropology, or a great course on the history of medicine, or a particular area in the history of medicine. And of course, there's also our Capstone, which we'll talk about in a second as well. So ultimately, students take 30 credit hours of coursework through our program to graduate. So our clinical ethics rotations, I've teased this a little bit. So Cleveland is a great city in that we have 4 major teaching hospitals here that all have partnerships with Case Western Reserve University: Cleveland Clinic, Metro Health, the VA, and University Hospitals. 3 out of the 4 are within walking distance of Case. Metro is a little bit of a drive, but not far at all. In fact, University Hospital, some of those buildings are intertwined with Case. They almost seem like they share a campus at times. But clinical ethics rotations is a way that students observe in the hospitals. So they spend time going to morning ICU rounds, attending ethics committee meetings, going to IRB meetings, going to the emergency department and shadowing and attending, going, as you can see here, rotating with social workers, chaplains. The list at each site is so unique to that site. At Metro, it is the region's burn unit. And so if you are at Metro, you go to the burn ICU and see what burn care looks like and the ethical issues that are involved in burn care, which are tremendous. If you go to the VA has a very unique set of demographic patients, and they are run by the government. And so the rules and regulations are very different there than other institutions. So every place is really unique. Students spend 80 hours per semester at the site they are assigned to. So one semester, the goal is to get you at a private hospital, so either Cleveland Clinic or UH. One semester is at a public, so either Metro or the VA. You spend once a week doing a preceptor meeting with other students who are at that same location as you, and a clinical ethicist or someone who sits in the ethics committee that's familiar with that site. So you can discuss the ethical issues you've seen that week, the rotations you've gone on to discuss, because there's a lot to unpack every week that you've rotated. So we're very excited to be back to in-person rotations this year, to have this opportunity. And ultimately, when you leave our program, you end up with 160 hours of in-person rotations, which is incredible. And if there is a specific area of healthcare or medicine that you're interested in, let us know, and we can try to accommodate that and identify if there's an opportunity that we can meet your needs and your interest during these rotations. Our capstone is kind of the culmination paper during the second semester. So students choose a specific topic in bioethics and medical humanities to work with a faculty advisor or advisors if there's more than one you want to work with. And you work to write a 23 to 25 page paper on a topic of your choice. And it really is to demonstrate a mastery of this area in your writing and to engage with the literature. And every year at the end of the spring semester, we do a flash presentation to hear from the students on what they wrote about. And it's incredible to hear the depth at which our students are able to construct and support their arguments, the variety of topics that students cover and research, and to hear the faculty feedback from the work they've done with the students is amazing. And so the capstone is great. And we have students who have gone on to publish some of their work with faculty, which has been great to see. We are also very excited to return to our study abroad short-term programs. So these are electives that our department offers. They are 1 to 2 weeks. The first one that we are going to be offering is Costa Rica. We are hopeful that we'll be able to offer that in January of 2022, which, as I'm saying it out loud now, I'm realizing that's like 6 months away, 7 months away. That's not that long, but that's what this picture is right here. These are 3 credit hour courses that students can take. And it's a way to earn an elective, but also to experience bioethics in another culture and compare it to the US system. We are hopeful then to be able to offer courses over spring break and then also in May. We'll have more details as borders continue to open up due to the pandemic, hopefully, and we're looking forward to be able to return to these. Faculty are just as excited to be able to offer these as students are, I truly believe. So these are great opportunities. We've had long-standing relationships with a lot of partners in these different countries and locations. And so we are very much looking forward to these, including one that is domestic, which is our U.S. national parks. We did one several years ago in Yellowstone, and we're always looking at different national parks to hold a short-term travel course to, focusing on environmental ethics and human health for that one. Costa Rica focuses on healthcare delivery. Granada, Spain focuses on health and wellness. The Netherlands, there's 2 courses that have gone focusing on public health and women's health, also focusing on the concept of decriminalization when it comes to drugs, detention, things like sex work. And Paris, France has focused on overall healthcare practices, but also the influence of religion and how that has affected perception on health and wellness as well. So such a variety of locations and topics that we cover in these short-term study abroad courses that we offer. We do have dual degree programs. If students are interested, we have partnerships with the MD, the JD, Masters of Public Health, Masters in Genetic Counseling, Masters of Nursing, Masters of Social Administration, which is equivalent to a Masters of Social Work, and a PhD in Genetics. The key to these is you have to apply to each of the programs separately or essentially independently and gain acceptance to each program. If you're interested in a dual degree program, the best thing you can do is to reach out to us to better understand the requirements and to better understand the application process to each program, because each has a different set of requirements, each has a different process. The timeline for applying to the MD program is different than the JD program, than the PhD in genetics. So if you're interested in these dual degrees, I highly recommend reaching out to us. We'll have our contact information at the end of the presentation. Financial aid. So this is a big question we get from students. So one program that we have is our student assistantships. Typically our deadline is June 1st. These student assistantships are available to students based on need and or merit. We have teaching, research, and administrative opportunities. If you are a student who need is going to be a considerable hurdle for you, we highly recommend that you reach out to us, because we want to be able to work with you and see how we can help you. So we just recommend that you reach out to us. There is always the financial aid office here at CASE. They are amazing partners at CASE to help students. Students are required to fill out FAFSA. And of course, there's traditional financial aid options as well. And then tuition and fee information is available through graduate studies. Right. So the application process. So required materials for a completed application package. So we require transcripts from all undergrad and grad programs. We ask for a statement of purpose. The statement of purpose is meant to be 1 to 2 pages. It can be double spaced. And what we're looking for is for the applicant to write about your interest in bioethics and medical humanities and how bioethics and medical humanities fits into your career path. And that could be anywhere from, I know what I want to do and how this fits into, I'm not sure how this fits in, but I'm hoping this can help me explore. So that's what we want to see in a statement of purpose. We also would like a CV or a resume as part of the application package, and 2 letters of recommendation, with one of those being from a faculty or professor. Once we have your completed application, it will be reviewed by an admissions committee member, and then you will also be interviewed by someone on our admissions committee. It can either be done by telephone or Zoom. I will add that once your application is complete, you do not have to wait for the letters of recommendation to be submitted. All you need to do is put in the name and the contact information for the letters, and then hit submit on your application in the portal itself. Once those letters come in, then we'll do the review and interview process. But you don't have to wait for the letters to be received in order to hit submit. So I always like to clarify that on this slide during our presentation. So just to clarify timelines, at this point, we're still taking applications. We have rolling admissions. Our final deadline is August 1st. So we are in the home stretch of the application process. We highly recommend that you get your applications in as quickly as you can. Once we have a completed application, I would say 2 weeks for a decision. We can do a quick turnaround. But don't wait to the last minute. Because we are an in-person program, you do need time to find an apartment to move to Cleveland if you are not local. So, you want to give yourself time that you're not stressing out in August trying to make this all work. Classes begin August 23rd. So get your applications in sooner rather than later. Let's talk, I'm gonna change directions a little bit. So let's talk a little bit about Cleveland. And I'll ask Sam if she wants to join this conversation. Cleveland's a great city. As I said at the beginning, I'm from Cleveland, so I am a little biased. Sam, you're not from Cleveland, so I feel like you may not be as biased.
I would have to agree. I'm definitely, don't think I'm as biased because I moved here for college for my undergraduate degree, left, and then came back to actually work in Cleveland. And so I have a little bit different of a perspective of Cleveland, but I will say by far, and I'm an out-of-stater too, so I originally came from the state of Michigan. But I think Cleveland is definitely by far one of my favorite cities I've lived in, just because the sheer amount of things you can do in town, and even things that are like big city, like things that like you would normally see in like a New York City or like in an LA and those types of things, like the Cleveland Orchestra, for instance. That's something that's like world renowned. But at the same point, you have like smaller things that are still like very much remind me of like close to home. Like there's a lot of mom and pop restaurants in the area, a lot of things where if you drive 20 minutes, you can be at a national park. And so there's all these different types of things that I think Cleveland has to offer that kind of get missed if you're not looking for them. So I definitely, that's my big thing when it comes to that. But yeah, definitely Cleveland has a lot of really awesome things to offer students and people who decide to stay after the fact.
Absolutely. I will add, so Sam, thank you for jumping in. I will add, recently, USA Today named University Circle, so that's the area where CASE is located in. So University Circle was named Reader's Choice for 2021 as the best cultural district in the country, which is pretty incredible to have that, beating out any other city or any other area in the country, which is great for Cleveland to university, area to get that that distinction. So it's exciting. You know, the other thing I will add is Cleveland is a livable city. The cost of living is very reasonable. We're not talking about the, New York, LA, Chicago prices. So that's the other very beneficial thing about Cleveland, is it is a reasonable cost of living city. So you're not breaking the bank to move here for a year for this program in terms of cost of living. So that's also very cool. But there's a lot to do here, whether you are into music, theater, culture, sports, food, outdoor activities. There's a lot of things to do for a lot of different personalities and interests. So you can see kind of a sampling here on the screen. So are there any questions for us? I haven't seen any come through, but I'd love to take the opportunity to answer questions from any of the attendees.
Sure, and I don't see any in the question chat box yet, but I do have a question for you, Leah, Dr. Jeanette, if you don't mind asking it for me to show.
Great, yeah, go ahead.
Please, yeah. So you had mentioned that you also attended this program, and so I always love to ask why and what drew you to the program, and what are some of the things that you have learned through this process of attending and graduating from the program.
It's a great question. Yeah, so I attended the program, oh boy, 13 years ago. So it's been a number of years. And I was one of those students that I thought for sure I was going to do this program and go on to medical school. I thought I knew exactly what I wanted to do with this program and come out on the other side. And this program completely changed my direction. So my career path changed because of this program, in fact. And it was because of the clinical ethics rotations. So I enjoyed the clinical ethics rotations so much, and being able to experience what ethics looked like in the hospital, that I decided I wanted to do bioethics full time. And so that is why I changed career directions and went on and got a PhD in bioethics. So yeah, this program for me completely changed my life and my career direction for the better. And I, look back on my time in the program and I'm so thankful. It is kind of funny though, that I would say, a handful of the faculty that are now people that I work with were my professors. And it's nice to still be learning from them, of course. But this program changed my life for the better in ways that I couldn't even imagine when I started it, because I thought I knew what I wanted. But we have students who come in and know what they want to do and do it. So they come in, they know they want to go to med school or law school. They apply, they get in, they go. And so they are very, very clear on that direction. And so it enhances their application, it enhances their skill set, their knowledge base going into med school or law school or PhD program, whatever it may be for them for next step. So yeah, this program changed my life in ways that I can't even imagine back then. And I'm so thankful for it.
Awesome, thank you. While you were answering the question that I posed to you, we did have another question come through.
Yeah.
The student wants to know if there are any requirements for a GRE test score, or if we require any tests at all to gain admittance into the program.
Yeah, that's a great question. We waive test scores this year. So because of the pandemic, we know that access to tests at the graduate level, whether it be GRE, MCAT, LSATs, and other graduate level tests or professional level tests, were hard to come by, especially last spring of 2020, summer of 2020, even in the fall. They were very difficult to come by for some individuals, and depending on where you were living and those things. And so because of that, we decided to make test scores optional. If you have test scores and you want to submit them with your application, you are welcome to. If you don't have test scores, you are not required to submit them. We simply just waive them from the application. They so if you don't include test scores, it is not going to affect your application or your chances of being accepted into the program in any way, shape, or form. But great question. I'm so glad you asked that. I should have mentioned that when we were going through the application requirements. So thank you for asking.
Awesome, thank you. And then another question that I wanted to pose is, when it comes to the application process, in terms of the purpose of the statement of purpose, I always mix those two up. But for the statement of purpose, what would be your number one thing to have students write to the department about when they're looking to put everything down on paper? Because I know that sometimes can be a daunting task. So what would you advise?
We really, so what I would say is, when we're looking at an application package, we're looking for fit, making sure that students are a good fit for our program, but we also want our program to be the right fit for students. And so the statement of purpose for us allows us to see it's kind of a window into how the student is thinking. And so what we like students to include in their statement of purpose is, why is the applicant interested in bioethics and medical humanities? Why do you care about bioethics and medical humanities? And how does this program fit into the career path? And to us, that can be done in a page and a half, 1 to 2 pages, double space. We're not looking for a long statement of purpose by any means. But so that's really what we're looking for in a statement of purpose is, why is there an interest in bioethics and medical humanities? And how does this fit into your career path? Oh, there's a great question.
There was, and I just started talking. I realized I was muted.
Oh, that's a great question. So the question is, can you give me an idea of how graduates with a JD MA bioethics degree utilize their knowledge in bioethics in their law practice? Can you give an example of a scenario that JDs MAs face and how MA bioethics can help in that? Oh man, that's an excellent question. So it depends. I would say there's a couple of things. So one, it depends on what kind of law they're practicing. So I myself have a PhD in bioethics, so I don't want to presume to know exactly the answer to that because I don't have a JD. So I don't want to give a legal answer if I don't have a JD degree. But that's a great question. We do have students who do the JD MA and actually go on to practice law in a variety of ways. They may go on to work for, let's see, I'm trying to think, students who have graduated from our program, they've gone on to work for a teaching hospital. They've actually been the counsel of a large hospital system. And so having knowledge in bioethics has afforded them the ability to understand bioethics as well as the law. We've had students who do the JD-MA program, and they've actually gone into clinical ethics. And so they've been able to straddle kind of understanding the legal parameters while practicing clinical ethics, which is interesting, that they can understand the law as well as ethics. And we've had students who've just gone into a variety of law practice. So that's a great question. That I don't want to necessarily give you the wrong impression by saying this is how they do it. That's a, oh yeah, medical malpractice. I would love for you to email us and I could connect you with someone who is kind of heading up the JD-MA, and they would be able to answer your question more specifically. I would love to be able to talk to you more specifically about that. So that would, yeah, that would be great. Yeah. Other questions?
The student clarified a little bit more. They're interested in medical malpractice.
Yeah.
So they were trying to figure out what degree path would be better, if it'd be MD JD or JD MA.
Yeah, I think, yeah, if this student can, or this applicant could email me, I can connect you with someone that could help you with answer that question specifically from our department, or someone from the law school that works on that could answer this better. It's such an interesting question. I could talk all day about medical malpractice from an ethics perspective. Whew.
That's so exciting. If there are no other, oh, awesome. Of course, you're welcome. If there are no other questions, we can wrap up a little early, but I definitely don't want to leave too early without answering everyone's questions. So if there are any others, feel free to throw them in the Q&A chat box.
One other thing I will say is our faculty are very active, both on the education side as well as the research side. So our faculty are working on research grants, or they're active in the clinical world, or they're working on papers, they're presenting. They are very active in their fields and their areas of interest. This is something that they are constantly doing and working through. And they are just as committed to teaching our students as well. And so students who are in our program are assigned an advisor, and they work with the student to figure out their coursework, what works for them, what the student's area of interest is. And so part of the interview process is figuring out not only is the student a good fit for our program, but also figuring out what the student's interested in, who would be a good advisor, you know, if we're going to admit the student into the program, and where we can match the student to what faculty in our program. And so we care so much about the student's success in our program. That is so important to us. And so that's the last thing I can stress for you, is how much our faculty care about our students as people, and in making sure they succeed in our program. It's so important to us. So I will leave you with that. If there aren't any other questions, we can always be reached, bioethics@case.edu. Easiest way to reach us. So thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you taking the time. If you have any other questions, you can always email us. And we hope you submit an application for us and ultimately join us this fall for our master's program.
Awesome. Have a great rest of your evening or afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.